Well, good morning. Welcome back to Taylor Time Live. I'm your host, Seth Gladden, and today we have a great show planned for you. Pardon me as I have audio issues here. We have a great show planned for you today. We're going to be continuing our series on biggest challenges in the flooring industry, and today we're talking about claims and litigation. Last month, in case you missed it, we talked about callbacks and inspections, so you can go back to our YouTube channel and reference that. We also have a bunch of other great content throughout this year dealing with biggest challenges. So invite you to go check those out. Just go to our website. Right at the top there's a YouTube link. You can click that and you'll see all of those previous episodes on the Taylor Time Live playlist. So before we jump into today's claims and litigations though, definitely want to introduce our Media Minute partner today, Kemp Harr, with Floor Focus and Floor Daily. So Kemp, thank you for being here.
Hey Seth, good to be with you. A little bit of a role reversal, and this is live.
Yes, it is. It is live, and it lives forever too. So,
okay.
You know, if we mess up, it's always there.
All right, good. Well, I can't wait.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and it's great to have you in studio.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, Kemp, can you just tell us just briefly what you do and how long you've been doing what you do, and then we'll jump into a couple of questions about the industry.
I'm publisher and owner of Floor Focus magazine. Bought it 16 years ago, and we've continued to do a print magazine that goes to about 16,000 people, and we also have a very robust online version of our magazine that you can access through Floor Daily, and we have a daily newsletter on Floor Daily. That's our business.
That keeps you busy, I bet.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely love checking those out. Tons of great information. Speaking of, in your opinion, what's going on in the flooring industry? Where are we at today?
Well, let's start with the economy. You know, there's been some debate, depending on who I'm talking to. You know, the economists always talk about on the one hand, and on the other hand, they have two hands, you know. So, I mean, just last week I talked to Robert Dietz with the NAHB, and he said we're in a recession. And I mean, the debate is whether, you know, this R word and where we are in it. And yet, you know, not too long ago, I talked to Alan Beaulieu with ITR Economics, and he says if we get a recession, it's going to be next year. So, you know, that when you start looking at the flooring business, there's really three sectors. There's the residential replacement sector, and that one's the one that's been so robust. And strong sales last year. It's starting to flatten off just a little bit now. I just interviewed Deb DeGraff. She's actually our featured interview today. And Deb's up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And she's talking about a little bit less store traffic. Two biggest factors probably is perceived wealth of the consumer. They're filling up their car tank with fuel, and it's taking some of their disposable income. They're tearing open their 401k, which, by the way, I don't recommend anybody do right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, not a good time for that.
Yeah, but so that's affecting you know whether or not they're buying flooring right now. So that's tapering off. I did on the way down here because you know you're right here by all these stores. I stopped in real quick and saw Rick Meyer.
Yeah.
Just 10 minutes ago, I asked him how's business, and he says fantastic. So it just kind of depends on where you are and the market, the demographics you're going after. So you know that's the residential replacement. Then you've got the builder market, and I mentioned you know what Robert Dietz thought. We are seeing a slowdown there. We actually run a story today on that. And so the market's slowing down just a little bit. The good news is that home ownership is at a 65% ratio right now, which is healthy.
Yeah.
That's a wealth builder for the economy. So a good number of people own their homes.
Yeah.
There is the affordability factor. Materials, as you know, we've seen on the flooring side, price increases in flooring. And so that's going across in lumber and copper and everywhere else. So that's raising the price of a home, and then you've got on top of that the Fed's raising the rate, and they're talking about another 0.75%.
I know.
So that'll take it, you know, maybe above 6-7% on a 30-year fixed. So that's having a little slowdown on home sales.
Yeah.
The third sector, though, that's strong is the commercial sector. It's a lagging market, and it's doing well. So performance there is pretty good, and that's where we kind of stand. One quick comment: the dollar is at a 20-year high right now, so it's even stronger today than the euro. And a lot of people are on vacation.
Yeah.
So that's the summer doldrums that you're seeing at residential replacement could be just because of the pent-up demand post-COVID. People are traveling, and that's kind of what we're seeing from an economic standpoint.
Okay. And you said that article you're running, that's going on Floor Daily, is that correct, today?
Yeah, it's already it's out there today.
It's out there today. Go check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
You know, despite what's going on with the economy and a lot of people being unsure, we sure do seem to have a lot of acquisitions happening. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yep, sure can. The biggest one, and I give several presentations, but the biggest one is what's going on with Armstrong. We now know, that Armstrong had they declared bankruptcy. They've had 4 years of not making any money. If you look at where they stood in sales on the top 10 list, and maybe we could show that slide real quick, the top 10 flooring manufacturers, Armstrong right in there last year at $479 million in sales. And what's happened is they've sold off into three parts. You've got the China piece that's going to Giant Company. We don't know them, but that plant's going to a Chinese organization. The Australian organization is going to the McKendrick family. The McKendrick family is the family that sold Godfrey Hirst to Mohawk. That sold to them. And then you've got North America. North America, there was only really one strategic bidder involved. They end up with it, Brian Carson and AHF Products. And when you look at the three different entities that sold, and you look at what they totaled, it was about $200 million is what they got in revenue to satisfy the debtors and creditors. So that's where that is. So what I just talked to Brian. If anybody gets a chance, we did an interview with him. He doesn't own all of it. He owns a piece of it. If you look at where Brian is, AHF Products, about $300 million, largest producer of hardwood in this country, and that's around $300 million. And then you add whatever he can do with what he's bought now. So they're going to be well on their way to be in the middle probably of that top 10 list, and AHF Products.
Yeah, quite the exciting moves.
Yeah,
so.
More acquisitions if you want to cover just a few more. Somerset just recently purchased by the Bauer Group. That's a European company coming in and buying a Kentucky hardwood producer, and one of the top five. And most people know Bauer Group is that Bowen brand. And so you've got European investors coming in to buy American companies. You also recently had the FEI Group. They're that buying group focused on the builder market. They just purchased by Nationwide Marketing Group. And I'm doing an interview with the leader of that organization next week. So if you want to catch that podcast, you might find it interesting.
What day is that?
That's going to be next Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the RFMS recently sold to CompuSoft in 2020. Most people know RFMS, a company that Terry Wheats was a retailer in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He saw a need. He developed some software that was cutting edge, developed by a retailer that knew what they needed: inventory control, measuring, estimating, customer relation management. And so that's bought by a big powerhouse company that's all into software, and that should enhance what's going on there. Also, Mohawk just recently bought Vitromex. So Mohawk, while they're the largest company in flooring in the world, continues to add. Vitromex, the largest in market share leader in ceramic tile in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. So then a couple of other ones, just a quick mention. Material Bank on the commercial side. They're the company that's doing the sampling. You can order almost overnight and get these samples. They just bought Architizer. That's Adam Sandow. He's the publisher of several commercial magazines, Metropolis and Interior Design Magazine, and he bought a big warehouse in Memphis, and now he's kind of shifted his focus to this new area. Then in the middle of the channel, just recently, Nemo Tile. They're just buying up, second acquisition in 2 years, mostly in the distributor section of tile. Got to mention Diversify. They just bought Spectra. They're $1 billion company on the commercial side, and they have 52 locations now. Wow. And so quite an organization there. So a lot of changes. As you know, most of these acquisitions, it takes 6 months at the minimum. So they all got started last year. So we probably are going to see more of that throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of activity happening. But it's exciting to see, and we'll just keep an eye on some of those as they.
Yeah,
as
one
they
of
move
the
through,
one of the
so.
slides I'd like to show real quick, if you don't mind, is the
Yeah.
U.S. flooring market. Just a real quick comment on that. You can see where it dipped in the Great Recession there, and then in 2021, and it's the strength of that residential market primarily, grew 18% last year to $26 billion. So that gives you a quick snapshot of where the business is.
Yeah, that's a great overview. So, well, Kemp, we've got just another minute, but I'm going to ask you, what sets you apart from your competitors in the market?
Well, it's simple. It's surrounding yourself with smart people, and I'm actually classically trained journalist. So we have a purpose. Our job is to entertain and inform our readers and give them the kind of information they can be more successful. Entertain them, make it the content easy to consume. Quick reads. Be objective. Be a journalist. The old Walter Cronkite days. We don't think three people should sit around and give your opinion on the news. Back in the old day, it was the AP rip and read. Tell the truth and know your customer. Our customer is our reader.
Yeah.
So you can go and easily consume our information. You don't have fly-in advertising. You don't have to dial in or give your password to get to our content. And be a pro. I mean, be humble about it, but be a pro. So that's kind of what sets us apart.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Kemp, great stuff. As always, it's a pleasure to read what you guys put out and see all the great statistics and all that.
Seth, thanks for having me. Okay.
Great to have you. You're welcome back anytime.
Okay,
thanks,
it.
Kemp. Well, let's turn over to our segment on claims and litigation now today, and talk about that. Also, remember, you can ask your questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to have answered, feel free to text those into the number that's right at the bottom of the screen. And we'll get those taken care of for you. So let's go ahead and meet Mike Berginger. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
It's pronounced Berginger.
Okay.
Yep.
Berginger.
Berginger.
Okay, very good. Well,
my
Mike,
first wife never could spell it, so don't worry about it.
great to have you here. And Mike, if you can, just tell us a little bit about who you are and about who your company, the 850 Group, is.
Well, what and the way we came about the name of it's actually 850 Group, is that whenever you're involved in claims with manufacturers, they always want to know what areas do you cover. And they get the area you cover by getting the area code. Now, I live in the Florida Panhandle, so my area code is 850. But I cover Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Georgia, all of Alabama. So I had like 15 or 16, I think we're now about 22 area codes.
Okay.
And I was just saying one day, and I said, this has gotten to be quite a large group. Ergo, we say you got 850 Group. But what we do is that we're certified flooring consultants. We work with manufacturers, individuals, attorneys, insurance companies, anybody that has a need, a question, architects, specifying floor covering for certain type of buildings, what a building is going to be used for, building specialty managers. They have an ongoing maintenance problem in the building they're trying to take care of. And we'll go in and we'll analyze that, find out, why is this happening to them and what they can do to lower the costs on caring for that building. So it's a broad spectrum, and then we do quite a bit of expert witness testimony in court cases.
Yeah.
So and train. We train constantly, because my goal has always been, I've been in this industry for 51 years. I owned a commercial installation company that specialized in military bases for 21 years, and got quite a reputation for innovative training. Back in 1989, there was a great consortium in the floor covering industry called the Floor Covering Installation Training Council. Right. And all the major entities was involved in it, and we created some great textbooks, and we started some in-depth training along with the Job Training Partnership Act. We got federal funds, state funds, county funds in Birmingham, Alabama, and created the Flooring Installation School, where we cross-trained displaced steel workers who could no longer get a job. We cross-trained them into floor covering installers and put them to work. Now, wow. I tracked those guys for 10 years. We had 100% employment out of the school. We trained 60 participants a year, 16 weeks,
Wow.
and we got every one of them hired. I tracked them for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, 85% of them were still working in floor covering. Four of them owned their own stores.
Wow.
And so, I'm still in contact with quite a few. And in fact, my daughter just built a new house in Birmingham, Alabama, and the guy that installed her floor covering, I trained him back in 1993, I think it was.
Okay.
So it's great to see it ongoing out there. So we
Yeah.
do quite a bit of training, and we want to prevent the problems. We don't. I, I make money off of analyzing, investigating, evaluating claims, but I would rather not have the claim to begin with.
For
And
sure.
so I do a lot of work with how to prevent a claim,
Yeah.
and so that's gratifying. It's
Yeah.
giving back.
Well, it sounds like you've got quite the resume and background, and what a cool story to pivot workers from one industry to another, and then see that sort of success rate. But last month, like I mentioned, we talked about callbacks and inspections, and today we're talking about claims and litigation. So, I guess kind of my first question for you is, what do you see as the main reasons that a claim gets taken all the way to court? Like what in that process happens?
Generally, it's a breakdown in the process. I taught a class years ago. I call it the unfortunate anatomy of a claim in the floor covering industry today,
Okay.
and I called it the three Ds of claims handling: delay, delay, deny. And generally, that's how it starts. It starts with a delay. The the homeowner will have an issue, and they'll contact their point of purchase. Now, in the real world, the way that's supposed to work is that point of purchase, the retail store, would then report it to their point of purchase, and then they will decide then whether they're going to get someone to handle it, so far as sending an inspector out or whatever. The breakdown seems to happen a lot of times when the consumer just does not get the follow up, whether it's a breakdown between the distributor and the retailer, or the retailer and the installer, somewhere in that process that breaks down. Well, when it breaks down, then trust starts going away. Then
Yeah.
once the trust starts going away, well, then the consumer will start just really, not trusting even a logical answer. And so then they say, well, I'm going to go get my attorney. And unfortunately, or fortunately, so far as me making money, but unfortunately, we live in a litigious society.
Yeah.
And some people, sometimes they're nuisance claims and nuisance suits. But 92%, and this is just a recently, I read this in Westlaw Review, 92% of claims taken to court end up settling out of court. And a
Oh
lot of
wow.
states have in their statutes now where the litigants are forced to go into what they call alternate dispute resolutions. In other words, a lot of times a judge might just call in the two technical experts involved in the case and listen to the case from the technical standpoint and rule on it. And then everyone has to abide by it. And they agree to that when they go into this mediation process. But it's very few of them nowadays who actually get all the way into court, because by the time you get there, you're you're doing you're investigating, you're evaluating, and you're educating all the parties involved. When you get to that point of it, you end up a lot of time in depositions, and then I've got 7 right now that I'm working on that are
Hmm.
we've got court dates. We're going to go to court on these 7. Um, and I've been asked by one of the cases I'm working on to block out an entire week for testimony in court.
Wow.
That's a lot of time for one technical expert to be on the stand,
Yeah.
and quite expensive.
Yeah. That's a lot
Uh,
of time and
and,
money.
and especially because it's out of town. Now they've got all the expenses they're going to get involved. So everyone does everything in the world they can to keep to getting to that point. But this one is it's a commercial building. It's quite large. They've got everybody in the world involved in it. There's like 5 different lawyers involved in it, so
Wow.
it's going to be a headache.
Yeah, they can get
But
messy for sure.
but actually, it's kind of fun uh,
Yeah.
because
Yes. For
because you get
you.
to see how you get to see how no you get to see how it works. It's gratifying. You
Yeah.
get all the way through the whole process, and then and you see how it goes. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if what you're doing for a living is fun, you're not working.
There you go.
So
Right. Permanent vacation.
that's it.
So Mike, what in that process? What's some tips that you could give to a flooring contractor or flooring installer to maybe avoid? Let's say they get a call back. How do I avoid that from getting all the way to a claim or going to court?
First thing, address it immediately. Address it immediately.
Yeah. So don't
Um,
you said the 3 Ds, right? Delay, delay.
delay, and then somebody denies it
Yeah.
because it could have been handled. Um, Address it immediately. People will be communicated with. You know, people. Um, I looked at 2 this past weekend to where the people actually was sold a product, a floating product to go on the floor in a residential home to where one of the occupants of the home is is permanently disabled and they're in a power wheelchair. A floating product being sold to a person in that type of an environment should have never happened. A floating product came out, and this is the LVP, luxury vinyl tile
Right.
plank. They can't take that type of abuse, and so that breakdown comes from what I call the specification end. The specification end is the salesperson. The
Right.
salesperson should have never sold them that product. So knowing your product is the number one uh, preventative process you can put into place to keep from having a claim. Sell the
Yeah.
right product to do the right job in a particular environment. Secondly, and I have been on this soapbox for 30 years. We were the graph just showed in a multi-billion dollar industry, and it's
Right.
a manufacturing industry. In this industry, we're creating products that are just floor covering material. That floor covering material doesn't become floor covering until the installation contractor is through with it. So that
Yeah.
makes the installation contractor the end manufacturer of a multi-billion dollar industry. We do a very poor job of getting the information into that installation contractor's hands.
Hmm.
We we've been going to the point now to it being that most manufacturers putting their installation instructions online. They're not even putting them in the boxes anymore. I train a lot of installation managers, and I do a lot of training in store. To where I tell them, says when you hand that work order to that installation contractor that's going to go put that product in, at least print the installation instructions, staple it to his work order, know that you put that material that he needs in his hands to where he can read it, and just maybe just one little simple thing will avoid the claim.
Yeah.
And that's just knowledge,
Yeah.
having the knowledge of the product that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have not fixed yet in this industry. We're working on it. Everybody's trying, but we just, like for instance, Taylor years ago started putting not only the instructions on the side of the bucket, but they actually put a model of the trowel that needs to be used with that product toward the
Yep.
installer can match that trowel right up to the bucket. That's fantastic. That was innovative. That is just the way we need to do it to get the information in the guys' hands that need it. And that's how we stop claims. We stop claims by addressing them before they start, by training, by giving the installation contractor what he needs, because something that no one understands, the consumer does not understand the relationship between the subcontract installation contractor and the retail store owner. They think they're all one entity when they're really dealing with 2 different entities. And a lot of times they don't find that out until they have a problem.
Yeah.
And then I can't tell you how many times I heard this. Well, then I found out that he didn't even really work for the store.
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
he does, but legally, no, he's
Yeah.
a different entity. And that installation contractor has to do a certain amount of things as a businessman to protect himself. And
Sure.
one of the things that they need to do, and it is they need to either incorporate or at least form a limited liability corporation or LLC. In the state of Florida, you cannot subcontract for curb installation unless you are at least an LLC.
Okay.
You must carry general liability insurance.
Yeah.
And what a
So,
lot of subcontractors don't understand is they think that a general liability insurance policy is a workmanship policy, but it doesn't cover workmanship. So it doesn't cover a faulty installation. It just protects them in case some type of damage is done uh, in that home,
right.
and it protects them from that.
So,
Um,
so Mike,
and
when you're inspecting a job, how important is the paperwork aspect of it to make sure if it does end up, if that claim ends up going to court, how important is that paperwork step?
report writing, the certified inspection report is critical, absolutely critical. I can't tell you, I encourage installers, salespeople, whatever. I encourage them to become, to get trained, go to school, become an inspector. It's a way for an installer to get off the floor, because it's a back and knees business. Those are the two things that go out. Become an inspector. Inspecting a job is relatively easy. Writing the report is extremely hard. And a lot of them that do get into the industry as an inspector get out of it because they can't write the report.
Hmm.
But the report, you always have to, when you sit down at your computer and you start to write this report, and I still do this to this day, um, I just know in my own mind that this little report that I'm writing up right now could one day be held up in front of me in a courtroom that I've got to raise my right hand to and swear to, and it's got to be 100% correct. Every report can only obtain, should only obtain facts, never opinions.
Right. Yeah.
And I see so many reports. I've got one on my desk right now that someone sent me that want me to review. And he's a new inspector. God bless him. Hopefully somebody can get to him and stop things like this from happening. But I've read, in my opinion, 5 times in this report already.
Wow.
And
And you need facts, not opinion.
need facts,
Yep.
and you need to back them up with industry standards and citations. It's
Yep.
CRI 105, for instance, or the 104 when we're talking about carpet, Resilient Floor Covering Institute,
Yeah.
National Wood Floor Covering Association. Those are the documents. Those are your holy grails. Those are what you go
Yep.
by, and nothing else. And I can't tell you how many times I see and hear in court opinions.
Yep.
They're, they're like
So,
fingernails on a chalkboard to me.
yeah. So speaking of facts and opinions, Mike, we're running out of time here, but I think you referenced a book earlier. If someone wants to become an expert witness or get more information about that whole process, do you mind
It,
showing us that book quickly and just give us the
yeah,
30-second synopsis?
I, I, let's see if I can get it
There
to
you,
light reflecting on it.
there you go.
Uh, the Expert Witness Handbook is written by a guy by the name of Dan Pointer. Anyone in the world, I'm so sorry, anyone in the world that is even thinking about being an expert witness, buy this book. Um, Dan is I met Dan back in 1992. I haven't been in touch with him in a lot of years. Um, but he taught a segment in a class that I went to with the Academy of Textiles and Flooring out of Whittier, California. Uh, he is a parachute specialist and an author. And he does a lot of expert witness testimony in parachute cases.
Hmm.
But he wrote this book. I know back 88, 89, somewhere along in there the first time. I think this is like probably the 12th edition or whatever. But it is full of really good information in there that if you ever get called to testify in a court case, or if that's something you want to do, or you think you might want to do, there's a need out there, especially in
Yep.
this industry. There is a great need.
Yep.
I get calls. I got one last week wanting me to go to Tacoma, Washington. I don't want to
Hmm.
go to Tacoma, Washington, and
Yeah.
I help them find somebody out that way.
There you go.
But it's a great business to be in. I could do it full time, but I still got so many other things I like doing.
Yep. Well, Mike, thank you so much. It's been great having you. Great getting to know a little bit of the information that you have in your head. Again, Mike is with the 850. Sorry, I called it 850 earlier, but the 850 group. Mike, how do we find you online?
Well, on the website, 850group.com.
Okay, and is that all numbers? 850group.com.
850group.com.
Okay, very good. Mike, thank you so much for being on today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is all the time we have for today, so I just want to thank you for tuning in and joining us. I invite you to come back every third Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out on our next Taylor Time Live event. Stay tuned for details on that on social media, on our website. I do also invite you to follow us on social media. Go on there, like our posts, become a follower, get engaged with us, check out our Taylor Time tips, and let us know anytime you have questions. We're always happy to answer. Just remember, at Taylor Adhesives, we are with you every step.